American Airman. I am a warrior. I have answered my nation's call. I am an American Airman. My mission is to fly, fight, and win. I am an American Airman, wingman, leader, warrior. I will never leave an airman behind. I will never falter, and I will not fail.
I didn't have to do it that time. That was all her. Welcome back, everybody. It's the Back and Forth Air Force Recruiting Services only live stream, and we have got a really cool topic for you guys today, something a little different than anything we've done before, because most of the stuff that we've talked about is what happens before you join, how do you join, what happens when you join, what are specific career fields like, and even like, what do you do once you're in, or what's it like for families and stuff like that. Well, we're going to take it a step even further back. So we're talking like middle school, right? Middle school, junior high, stuff like that. You remember ROTC, the kids in high school running around in uniforms and stuff like that.
Junior ROTC.
Junior ROTC.
Yep.
ROTC is college. I'm really good at this. Good thing we brought guests.
Great thing.
Talk about a segue.
Yeah.
Here
How about you
are-
introduce yourself for the folks that are first timers, right? Like first time on the Back and Forth. Who is this gentleman? This is Tech Sergeant Cerny.
And
Hello.
this is Senior Master Sergeant Johnson.
Hello. Hi.
That's the first time we've ever introduced each other.
There you go.
Perfect. Whoop, there you go. All right, now we're going to get to the guests. I promise I've done this before.
Hi, guys.
Hey, we've got Lieutenant Colonel Hoffman, Captain Doring, and Lieutenant Brazil. I am going to just really try to make sure I get that right on the pronunciations. Welcome to the show, guys.
Welcome.
Thank you so
Happy
much
to have
for
you guys here.
taking time out of the day and joining us. Really appreciate it. Let's get some quick introductions out of the way. Lieutenant Colonel Hoffman, why don't you kick us off here?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lieutenant Colonel Kirk Hoffman. I'm the Force Management Branch Chief at Air Force ROTC for Senior ROTC, as the Sergeant mentioned. So basically helping get our cadets from student joining all the way up to lieutenant at the end of our program. I've been in the Air Force now for over 19 years, and I was an ROTC product myself out of Mississippi State University, graduated back in 2004.
That is awesome.
awesome.
Very, very cool. That's what a success
Full
story, right?
circle.
Well, subject matter expert and also with experience, right? So not only helping run the programs, but did it yourself. That's really cool. Captain Doring, how about you?
Yeah, hey, sir. So I am over at headquarters ROTC as well. I am part of the scholarships branch. So I do the recruitment and for high school scholarships, and then for in-college scholarships for ROTC students. Also a product of Air Force ROTC over at Ohio State back in 2017. It's coming full circle. Glad to be here to share my knowledge with y'all. And I'm a 38F Force Support Officer, so personnel and sustainment services, and I've been in for 7 years.
Nice. Well, thank you very much. And yeah, you're right, 2 for 2.
Yep.
We might actually have...
Ooh, is it going to happen? LT, tell us.
LT, you're up. Bring it full circle.
Full circle. I'm Lieutenant Brazil, also here at headquarters ROTC, working recruiting for all of ROTC. So over all of the ROTC recruiting officers at the various 145 detachments. Also a product of ROTC coming out of the great University of Alabama.
Three,
Tide.
four, three.
I'm a 63 Alpha by trade, so acquisitions officer. And yeah.
Love it. Love it. So we definitely have folks that know what they're talking about. So not only are you running these programs, but you lived these programs. So you guys are specifically the folks that we always want to talk to on this show. We are super happy to have you guys here. So thank you so very much.
I'm also kind of wondering what would have happened if, so our previous producer, the I wouldn't say late great, but he's about to retire. His retirement ceremony is actually on Friday. He was basically kind of the guy who got this whole thing started, is Major Rico Lane. I have occasionally given him shout outs because I think he went 7 or 8 shows in a row giving a shout out to his alma mater. He would go Dogs every single time and I would roll my eyes, but he was contracting officer. So I'm kind of glad, considering your acquisitions, and he's like that he's not on this show in the background. We've got Mike Carvajal's our producer in the background and all the buttons and the magic, but I can't even imagine how it might even just get shut down. With technical issues, everything would just go like with the color bars, and the show would just end right there. You just end up in like a death tone. Just, we're finished. We're done. We're out. Yeah. So
Technical difficulties comes
anyway,
across the
I
screen.
see your roll tide, and in honor of, and also for celebration of his entire career, Major Lane, I'm giving you a shout out, and I will go Dogs. All right. So now I've made a mortal enemy out of our guest. Let's go on and kick this show off. Okay.
Right.
Somebody tell me, aside from me, let's see if we can do this. We didn't plan this at all. It's ROTC is Reserve
Officer
Training.
Corps.
Yeah. You can tell we did that in rehearsal. We did not. Somebody tell me what Reserve Officer Training Corps, or ROTC, is, kind of its history and what it's good for. And anyone can take this one.
So I'll start by what it is. It's pretty much an education and training program. It's a 4-year, typically, program that allows prior service or non-prior service members commission into the Air Force as a lieutenant upon the completion of their 4-year degree. It's
Too easy.
just simple, the short part of it.
Okay.
Okay,
Too
so
easy.
we also have a junior ROTC programs, right? So as Captain introduced, while she introduced herself, she was talking about how there's high school scholarships, right, that fall into that. So I'm going to assume, right, like correct me if I'm wrong, because we're all here to be educated, that the junior ROTC piece kind of falls into that that wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Am I right? Am I wrong?
yeah.
Where are we at with that?
So part of their scholarship budget is intertwined with ours. So we make sure that we partner with those folks to make sure that there's a allotted amount of scholarships to go towards specifically JROTC students. We call it the J100 scholarship, and truly a cream of a crop scholarship, and full tuition, room and board, book stipend. That's definitely where you want to be if you are a JROTC cadet, is pursuing that J100 scholarship option.
J100. All right, I'm writing that down. Now,
me too.
Can I interject one moment?
Oh yeah, please do, sir.
Just to talk about the difference, though. I don't want anybody to get the thought in their mind that they have to be in junior ROTC to be in Air Force ROTC at a college university.
Okay.
That is not a requirement. It certainly can be a benefit to certain cadets to have that background going from junior ROTC, but it is not a barrier to entry. It is not a requirement that you be a junior ROTC student at a high school to go into Air Force ROTC. It is just, they are distinct programs in that aspect. Junior ROTC and Air Force ROTC are both headquartered at the same place here at Maxwell. We report to the same general officers, but there are two different missions. Junior ROTC's job is to be a citizenship and development program. And then they have the scholarships that Captain Doring talked about that can align to hopefully get them into the Air Force ROTC program. I just don't want people to think that I'm going to a high school that doesn't have a junior ROTC, so I don't have a chance of being an Air Force ROTC. That is simply not the case. Anyone can join Air Force ROTC as long as you are at a university or at a crosstown that has university. And by crosstown, I mean you may not have the host attachment at your school, but you have an agreement between the two schools that you can go do ROTC. So I used to be a detachment commander at the University of Texas, San Antonio, and we had other schools in the San Antonio area that students from those universities would come to UTSA and do ROTC related training to go become officers. And then they would go complete the rest of their studies at their host their primary university. So I just wanted to make sure people don't get any any misconceptions that you have to be in junior ROTC to be in the senior ROTC program at a university.
Gotcha.
Perfect. And with that segue, how do you join ROTC?
Yeah, that's solid as well. I'm glad you mentioned that too, by the way, sir. I was actually curious what the link was, and I'm glad that you showed that they're separate, but also that they do have connective tissue that helps people branch. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's a requirement. So, okay. Yeah,
certainly.
Back to your question.
To talk to joining, I'll speak first from just having been at a university accepting new students, and then I'll pass it over to the experts who run scholarships and recruitment to talk to a lot of the programs we do. In terms of joining, any student enrolled at the university or at one of those crosstowns I mentioned has the option of joining Air Force ROTC. It's as simple as signing up for a class. That's it. There is no barrier to entry saying that you have to be in some certain other program or in some major or discipline that you're studying to try to be an Air Force ROTC. You can be a general studies major, undecided. You can be an aerospace engineer or anything in between, and you can sign up for the course.
Gotcha.
So to join the program, it's very simple. You just have to reach out to the detachment that is at the school. They will all have recruitment officers, as Lieutenant Brazil mentioned. They have somebody whose sole purpose in life, aside from training cadets, is to also run the recruitment and accessions piece at that unit. So they will have outreach programs on the university. They will have flyers. They will have websites, certainly, that talk about what their detachment does, a day in the life of that detachment. And they will help you be able to go through the sign up process for your school, for your classes for Air Force ROTC. And they'll talk about what that battle rhythm looks like in terms of classes, the extra training requirements like physical fitness training, things like that, and what those timelines look like during the week so that you can plan your schedule to include work schedules, other class schedules around that. But then you sign up and you go in and you complete a bunch of other paperwork, which includes like having your birth certificate, social security number, getting logged into our system of record so that we can start to have you tracked. You'll also have to do things like fill out forms to say like, I will not do drugs because I'm in the Air Force ROTC program and I'm not supposed to do drugs. And you'll get a sports physical so that you can do physical fitness training. And then you start the program and you go from there.
Familiar.
Scholarships are slightly different. Scholarship, I'll defer to my experts, but the scholarship program, that's a very rigorous high school program that Captain Doring runs. So I'll turn it over to the experts now.
Before you jump over, Captain, before you take over real quick, I just want to kind of point out, especially to some of our audience out there, the guys that have joined us on this show before, that sounds awfully familiar, doesn't it? Like all the stuff we talk about when you go talk to a recruiter, there's a ton of paperwork, right? And it's really good to take those medical records, take that, anything that you have about who you are with you, and just take as much as you can. So that being said, also, if you are in the comments, I see a ton of stuff already coming through, lots of questions, lots of love coming through. Make sure that you are putting a Q before your questions if they are questions. If they're just comments, let them fly. We love to see it. But if it is a question and you would like us to answer it on the show, just put a Q before it so we know which ones are questions and we can set those into our favorites bin and we can make sure to get to those. Now back over to our subject matter experts on scholarship stuff.
So yeah, I'll just piggyback on that. Super easy to join one of the 145 ROTC detachments. You'll probably hear me refer to this a lot, but airforcerotc.com or afrotc.com will have all the information and more and contact that you will need. It outlines all of the detachments, all of the crosstowns, and everything like that. So super easy. All you need to do is be a citizen between 17 and 26, high school diploma, minimum of 2.5 or minimum of 2.0 college GPA, but obviously we'd like to get that up, and then have a score of at least 19 on the ACT. Other than that, you can talk with the various attachment ROs, and they can give you more information about your specific case. But that's just for joining. Now, if you want to pursue a full ride scholarship beforehand, then you will need to have a few other documents, 2 other things you needed before you go to college or during your college semesters. And I'll let Captain Doring speak on that piece.
Sure. Yeah. So this is going to be where the competition comes in. So we're really targeting those seniors in high school for this program. And you can visit the afrotc.com that Lieutenant Brazil had mentioned to start your application or to at least look through the information that's required of you. We do have minimums. We have high standards. So whether or not that's the 240 minimum score for your SAT, a minimum 26 for your ACT, and a 3.0 GPA for your high school. So your final semester coming out of high school, minimum 3.0. We have physical fitness standards. So it's your PT test that you need to take, which consists of the 1.5 mile run and push-up and sit-up component. That'll get added into your application. And then we look at all of your extracurriculars. So we think about drama club, band, whether or not you lettered in sports, varsity sports, anything that you can think of with community involvement. And we aggregate all of that data into our program, and we look at what you want to major in, what schools you're going to. You will receive an interview. So from Lieutenant Colonel Hoffman, really great example, and he can speak on this too. You'll be interviewed by a detachment commander or staff to get a feel for who you are as a person of character, leadership, involvement in your community, and they will assign a score to you, and that will also go into your order of merit, is kind of what we call it. And when we take it to the boards, you are racked and stacked against your peers. So across the nation, foreign countries as well, you do not have to be a U.S. citizen to apply for a scholarship. That's a fun fact. So once we get y'all into this aggregate score, we will look and say, hey, these are our top tier. We want to offer them their scholarship, and we'll make that offer to you. There are 2 separate Air Force boards that you can meet, and there is a Space Force board as well. So when we look at the Air Force as a whole, Department of the Air Force, we have the United States Space Force underneath us. And as our partner, we take care of them too. So if you're interested in the Space Force or in the Air Force, we're your scholarship folks, and your information will funnel through us for the application process.
Gotcha. Solid answers. You spent too much time looking away from the screen again.
I did.
It comes back. So the cameras have auto eye tracking, which is why every once in a while, one of us will just go like super fuzzy because the background is like out of focus, and now we're both in focus. But when we look away from the camera and we come back, sometimes it loses focus. So that's why the senior's blurry sometimes.
I'm reading.
She's just looking down at her paper. She's taking notes.
You guys
There's
have
a lot
a
of
lot.
really
It
good
was,
information.
and that was actually fantastic information. That was a lot of information. I didn't know that you didn't have to be a United States citizen to apply for the scholarship. So that's news to me, and I've been in this business for quite a while. So, and I'm sure it's a lot of news to a lot of our viewers that are out there.
Because we get a lot of questions on the
So,
show
and can I
about
put
how
a-
to join from a different country.
A caveat, you got to put a caveat onto it. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to put a caveat on there. So to activate your scholarship, you do need to become a U.S. citizen by the last day of your freshman year. So whether or not that's depends on what college you're going to, what university you're attending, but you cannot activate and be contracted as a scholarship recipient until you become a U.S. citizen. So you can get your
Gotcha.
foot in the door. Make sure
Yeah,
you're working
there
on
is
your
a way.
paperwork. That takes a second.
Sure. Cool. I mean, I'm looking at questions here. We got tons of them
There's
coming
so
in.
many, yeah.
We may be jumping into the actual back and forth section of the show earlier than anticipated.
yeah.
Okay, so talk to me a little bit about, I'm going to ask some questions on behalf of my middle son, Jason. He's, like I said, 13. He's looking at doing junior ROTC starting next year. He's an 8th grader this year. He's going into 9th grade. What kind of stuff would you suggest he does to be ready for that program, to succeed in that program, and then also looking forward to potentially doing ROTC because he wants to he wants to do Air Force, and he wants to be an engineer. So I'm like, look, we got a whole core of them, and you absolutely can go be an engineer officer and do college at the academy and do all this stuff. Like, I'm super excited. I'm like, and if you get on it like real fast, I might actually be able to salute you while you're still in. And he's just like, what? So that'd be really cool. So what would you tell Jason about like what's his best option to prepare him for these next steps? And also anybody else out there who's in like 7th, 8th grade, if you're checking this out right now, this is a good part to tune into.
Sir Colonel Hoffman, do you
I guess
want
I'll
to
take
answer
it
that?
first.
I'll start.
Go for it.
I'll-
We just I just toss it out there and anybody can take it. It's like,
Frago.
there you go.
I'll give it a go first. I think the best thing for any young teenager looking to go from middle school into high school, thinking about junior ROTC program or any of the other developmental and growth opportunities that Captain Doring talked about, being able to be in any other clubs or sports activities or band, things that allow you to kind of go outside of your comfort zone, if possible, to just work on your own personal growth and leadership and being able to interact with others well and face some challenging situations. Captain Doring talked about those interviews for a detachment commander to give to a high school scholarship applicant. And we did look very seriously, my commander peers and I, on what did you do in high school that helped you learn how to deal with challenging situations? When were you stressed? And if the only thing you're doing is going to school and you're not doing other things, like maybe you have a job at home because you have to help take care of the home. And some students, that's certainly a reality. Maybe you letter in multiple sports, or you're on the debate team, or you do junior RTC. Any of those things, they're showing that you can go outside of just, I'm only taking care of me. I can take care of other things. I have the responsibilities to be able to help others and to take care of other requirements that aren't just me going to do my math class or my history class. I do other things besides just go home and be alone by myself. I integrate with other humans, because if you want to go be an officer, you're going to be working with other humans, right? You need to be able to integrate with them and talk with them and be comfortable in a public setting. Something like being on this video screen, right? Being able to actually talk and be comfortable in your skin. For junior ROTC in particular, what I noticed out of a lot of junior ROTC applicants going into senior ROTC is a lot of them could be very good at some of the disciplinary things, such as how to wear their uniform well, how to march well. So they learned some of those skill sets. But the ones that seemed to be really successful, more than just those very rudimentary skill sets, it was also the ones who knew how to take leadership roles. So like if you're the captain of a sports team and you're going out there and you're helping your peers, challenging them to go out and lead this team well, that's very similar to going and being, the cadet wing commander at a junior ROTC unit, and being able to go out and lead your peers, not just going along with the flow, but helping with responsibilities, helping learn how to go out and step out of that comfort zone. And those were the really successful junior ROTC students. They were comfortable being uncomfortable. They learned how to grow their leadership skill sets, their decision-making skill sets, and those served them well as those cadets later decided to go be an Air Force ROTC in a college or university. I would say very similar things that I saw out of people who did some of those other extracurriculars, like being on sports teams, being in the debate club, being on any of those other type of leadership roles and other avenues in high school and junior high. Because again, not every school has a junior ROTC per se, but being able to get outside of just your own very limited sphere of just going to school and maybe going home and don't take this the wrong way, but playing video games, right? You need to be able to integrate and do other things that are leadership related and personal growth related.
Oh, trust me.
I hope that
He
makes
won't
sense.
He won't take any
wordy.
offense to that, because that's what he does. That's a lot of his engineering stuff comes into, like, he'll get on Roblox or whatever and just build stuff for hours and hours. And I'm just like, all right, cool, man. And he builds some pretty complex stuff. So, all right, let's kick it over to the other half of the screen. What do you guys got for Jason?
Yeah, so I do want to mention that we are not expecting Air Force officers to show up to this program and you're already acting like a first and second lieutenant or captain. We are looking for folks who are coachable. I think that is a big piece of, yes, you have crossed and checked all of the boxes that you needed to get there in terms of being a well-rounded citizen, American citizen. But what we really do want to see is your ability to take direction, and because followership is just as important as leadership. And we know that you may not have grown up in a military family. You may not even know what the Air Force is. You just have, you want to serve, or you want to get your college paid for. Both of those answers are correct. That's okay. We just want to make sure that you're willing to take the lessons and learn from your peers, and then lead after you've learned those lessons moving forward.
Gotcha. Very cool. Well, thank you guys so much for answering that one. That was kind of more of like personal vested interest, but also it did a really good job of explaining some of the stuff to me as well. So love that.
Like, tell them to
All
go
right.
back and watch this episode.
Oh, I will.
He's on right now.
While y'all were full screen, I was like, time hack. Okay, somewhere around 15, 17 minutes
Watch
in.
this at this
That's
point,
when I
yeah.
needed to go and just skip forward to that part, because I'm like, this is the part you need to focus on and listen carefully, because these guys know what they're talking about. So, all right, I think without further ado, it's time to get back into the part where the audience starts asking
I
questions
think so.
instead
Yeah,
of us. They
they're
are flowing.
They are
I am
flowing.
not going to lie. And so normally we have at the beginning, there's a lot of questions that are not necessarily related to what the topic is about, but they're more related to like general Air Force questions. This is probably closest to 50-50 split I've seen. There are a ton of questions. So let's jump into it. Let's get the first one up there. We can go for it.
Okay, I'll be 34 when I get my degree. Is that too old?
Yeah, we've got a couple in there that are age-related questions. So what's the age limit?
Captain already
The
said
age
it, we'll
limit
say it again.
changed. The age limit
Go
has
ahead.
changed. I'm sure the senior could tell you as well. The recruiting, 42. You have to be 42 to enter the military. So we got to back that up a little bit for us for RTC, right? Because we're assuming that you're going to be in school. So somebody needs to be starting their undergraduate degree by the time they are 38 years old, arguably, to be able to graduate 4 years later and commission by 42. So those regulations have just changed, and the rest of the sessions. So we'll call it like ROTC, all that stuff. Our regulations need to catch up for just basically how we recruit. But for you, 34 years old, I had multiple cadets that were in their 30s that are now lieutenants. So you're good to go.
Very cool. And that's less of a college related question and more of a, you should probably be, if you want to do ROTC, you need to be doing ROTC by the time you're 38, if that's in line with your beginning of your college education.
Yes.
Cool. Yeah. Too easy. Next question.
Well, also if you're non-prior service, if you're prior service, it's gonna adjust this. It'll adjust the slide a little bit. So.
Okay. Cool. Next question. Will a transcript or video link of this discussion be provided? Yes, it will, and so are and will be all of the previous and future episodes of this show. They are hosted on the platforms that you're watching them on right now. You can go check in our saved videos. So just check out the main title page. So if you're on Facebook, for example, just go to U.S. Air Force Recruiting. It'll be in our video section, and we actually have every single one of these live streams that we've done. This one will be on there probably within a couple of minutes after we end the show, which who knows how long that's going to be. I'm seeing a bunch of questions here.
So many.
We might just be going till dinner time. I'm kidding. We're not going to go to dinner time. I don't want to keep anybody that long. So, but yes, 100% the videos are hosted on the same platforms that you're watching them on. They are hosted on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So feel free to go back and look at old ones and then also come back for the new ones. But yeah, next question.
Okay. Hey, can you explain
Hi.
ASCP?
ASCP.
Okay.
ASCP?
Yes,
Let's hit it.
enlisted commissioning program. Yeah, so that has a set of specific roles. And actually, so my NCOIC, who's in charge of that program, will be best fit to answer these questions. But I can definitely pass along, and we can put this in the comment section, Major Pitts, if possible, our organizational box, so that we can get those to you in writing in the guidance that we go off of for those milestones.
Yeah. So Damien, keep an eye on that comment section. We have moderators in the chats on every single platform that this show is airing on right now, and you guys will see them in there. They're flowing through. Pam is like one of our rock stars. She's always in there. But there,
I can give you guys
have
like the top level view of that list of commissions.
Just give us a general.
audience.
And y'all have-
Sure, yeah.
But it allows you to leave active duty service just to go do ROTC for those senior airmen and above, with the recommendation of the commander or higher.
Yes, and there are two programs actually, and we can split this out in our comments as well, where you remain active duty and you are being paid your paycheck to commission.
Nice. So you guys mentioned that you have Major Pitts in the comments as well. So like I was telling you, keep an eye on those comments, because we might see more than just the comments we have from Pam and from Ray, which are, like I said, our rock stars that are always in there answering questions during the whole show. Keep an eye out for Major Pitts. And I just got waved on from the other side. The boss is wanting the mic. Go for it.
Hi, we do notice it in the comments that there's a Maria answering
That was a
question.
wave,
is
by the
that
way.
yeah?
I was waving.
Waving back.
I'm going to wave more vigorously.
Is the Maria that's answering comments in the question, is that Major Pitts?
That is
Yes.
right, Major Pitts.
It is?
Okay, all right,
I thought it
okay.
was just a really proactive
Maria.
commenter
Perfect.
answering all
No.
these ROTC.
Okay, Major Pitts. Okay.
All right.
Okay, shout out to Major Pitts.
Maria.
Yes.
It was either going to be Major Pitts or just a random commenter.
Just random Maria.
Yeah,
A very
random Maria.
a very well-informed Maria.
Okay, back off the mic.
Okay, you're back off the mic. I cut you off a second early, so that's going to sound funny. All right, next question. Let's get after it.
All right. Can you go from enlisted active duty to ROTC? So this is what we just kind of talked about, but let's hit it again.
Yes.
So it-
is
Okay.
Oh.
Next
question.
Yeah, so it's either as simple as doing one of those enlisted commissioning programs if you're still enlisted, or if you are no longer enlisted, just simply joining ROTC like anyone else would.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if
So
you just separate, so if you were an airman at one point in time and you leave and you get out and you're using, can you use your GI Bill and in conjunction with doing ROTC? How would that operate?
Yeah.
So the answer to all of those is yes.
Okay.
So if you are active duty as an airman right now, and I'm not talking reserve component, that's different. If you are an active duty service member, you have to go through one of 5 special programs. The captain mentioned 2 of them where you can stay on active duty. and those are scholarships that pay for very specific things to go be officers. And then there are 3 that you can apply for through your leadership, but also with ROTC, to be a cadet. And you will separate from active duty. So 2 of them where you stay active duty, 3 where you separate, and you then contract into the ROTC program and you become a cadet. And so that's the 5 programs where you can go from active duty to immediately going into officer training. Not all of them have scholarships at this time, but most of them do. Mm-hmm. Then there is the ability, if you are an airman, so who has separated, maybe you've been out for a year, and you have your GI Bill and you're deciding to go to school. We have airmen, or I should say veterans, all the time using their GI Bill to pursue ROTC. That is absolutely 100% cool. You're able to do that and pursue your degree program and be an ROTC. The other thing I do want to mention is that we do have, since we are talking total force, you can be a guardsman or a reservist and be an Air Force ROTC. You don't have to separate from those programs. You can be a cadet in ROTC, but you still have your obligations with the reserves and the guard. So a lot of cadets who go that route, they want to maintain their benefits of being a reservist or a guardsman, the pay they get, medical benefits, what have you. And they have to get what's called a conditional release from their commander at that guard or reserve unit to be able to pursue an ROTC commission. And at a certain point prior to commissioning, we will essentially sever their contract with the reserves or the guard and contract them into ROTC, which just a lot of legal jargon to say we have to put you on our books to then commission you as an officer. And that can run all the way up until typically a month prior to graduation and commission. So you can be an airman and you can be a cadet simultaneously. If you're active duty, there are programs that exist for you to apply to go be a cadet, or a very special set of 2 programs that Captain Doring mentioned that you can still be an active duty airman. So I will defer to it's answering the questions to be able to give more details on that.
What's the first big step? What would somebody who is in that position, where would they go? Who would they talk to? Is there such thing as ROTC recruiters? And where would you find them?
Yeah, easy question. You would find them at any one of the 145 detachments with any 145 colleges with a detachment, or the crosstowns. But I think the best place to visit is the AFROTC.com website for contact information. If you're talking about real specific cases to get somebody on the line.
AFROTC.com. Cool.
Ideally based education offices for our airmen also would have some resources and be able to point you in those directions to those opportunities. But in general, going to airforcerotc.com gets you hooked up with a detachment, and they want you. I tell you that they want you.
Yep. All right. Cool. Thank you. Next question. If active duty, pros and cons for ROTC versus OTS for commissioning to officer. Ooh, you're asking a biased crowd here, but let's see what we got.
I'll go with as much of a non-biased answer as I can.
Okay.
What is your need? Where do you sit in terms of getting your degree? These are things that you need to be able to ask yourself as you look at what is the best path forward for you. The LT already mentioned that ROTC is typically a 4-year program. We can condense it to 3, but beyond condensing it to 3, it's unbelievably rare, very special exceptions. So do you have 3 years left in school? Okay, well, ROTC is probably a good fit for you. Are you about to complete your last class as maybe we'll call it an active duty airman? Then do you want to go try to wait 3 years for a program versus applying for OTS? Where do you sit in your life? And OTS, they are very competitive. I'm sure the senior as a recruiter could tell you it's very competitive and a long waiting list to get into OTS because there are men and women all across the country, not just airmen, but people who are college graduates who are deciding, man, the Department of the Air Force is where I need to be. So there is no shortage of people trying to beat down AFRA's doors, the recruiting services doors, to try to go to OTS. I think OTS is a fantastic option, and you should pursue it if you are ready, like with a degree in hand, to go be an officer now. It's going to be your fastest track. But if you've got time and you need to keep working on your school, then ROTC has that low barrier to entry. You just go be a university student, sign up for class, and then you can start taking those ROTC programs. The only difference is if you are still on active duty, you can't be a cadet. You have to do one of those special programs to separate from the service. But if you are still working with about 3 years left of school, come give ROTC a chance. We want you. We'll take you, and it's a great opportunity, and you could maybe even earn some scholarship money to be able to go pay for the rest of that education you want. So I think that's really where does it sit for a person?
What's that, Captain?
Oh, I was gonna take that when the lead that Lieutenant Colonel Hoffman gave me. So you are eligible to apply for a high school scholarship as long as you have not been a full-time student in college. So you could have been graduated 3 years from high school, and you can apply for the scholarship. So don't let that limit you.
That's cool. We've been doing this show, like I said earlier, for a while, and I just think it's fascinating because every time we talk to people that represent programs inside the Air Force, I learn something new. And I think one of the outstanding things that just sticks out to me is the fact that we have created so many pathways for success, right? Like, it doesn't matter what your scenario is. Some of them are incredibly specific, but guess what? You might fall into that very specific category. Otherwise, there are very, like you said, low barrier options that really just push the availability and what we can do to flex pretty much anybody's situation to be able to make you an eligible option for the Air Force and make the Air Force an eligible option for you. So it's really cool, and it's fascinating to hear that, because I've never even considered like that ROTC versus OTS as an option, but it 100% is.
I will
caveat
it really
does come down.
There's always
Yes,
a but. Caveat this. So it's a low barrier to entry to enter ROTC. If you sign up for the class and you can be a student taking lessons at school, signing up for ROTC, be an active cadet, not on scholarship, not on contract, pretty much anybody. At a certain point, though, which is typically, we'll call it a normal college student going as a right out of high school into college. Your sophomore year, we have a competitive boarded process to get you into the upper class portion of the program. So you can't just show up and be kind of casual and dare I say it, lazy. You have to be invested in the program. You have to be working hard. You are going to be getting assessed against your peers. You do have to show growth and performance, be able to be a good leader, be a good follower, and because you're going to be rack and stack nationally against your peers on a national board by the end of your sophomore year, essentially, to have a chance to go into what is congressionally mandated by Title 10 code of our upper class portion of the program.
Sure.
That you need
So
to be in
guarantee.
That part of the There's no guarantees. If you sign up as a freshman in ROTC, there is no guarantee that you get to commission later. If you get one of Captain Doring's high school scholarships as a freshman, there is no promise that you get to commission later. You have to make it. Everybody has to make it through that cut process their sophomore year. And it's not saying that we're cutting half the people. It's not that. It's just they're not going to take 100% of the people because we are limited by Congress on how big the Air Force can be. And to keep options open like Officer Training School, OTS, we can't just push everybody through ROTC. There have to be other avenues of success for people based upon their needs and what the Air Force can draw in. So ROTC, it's not a promise. You're going to get out of it what you put into it.
Yep.
But even with that being said, right, so you have folks that don't get selected their sophomore year. That doesn't mean that the game is over. Doesn't mean that the show isn't over. It doesn't mean that there aren't other avenues for you to go, right? If you have that that drive and that want to still wear the United States Air Force uniform, there are still many avenues for our folks to take, right? So even if you are an ROTC student and you do not get selected, right, you can either just, as the colonel was talking about, you can go into the Guard of the Reserve and use education benefits. That if that was one of the reasons that you were in the ROTC program was to help pay for or subsidize some of that education, right? So you can go into the Guard and the Reserve and they're going to help you pay for that education. You go into the Guard, now one of those states may even have a full state tuition to the state school that you're going to. So bada boom, bada bing, your school just completely got paid for because of that. Now you join those units in Guard or Reserve, and while you're within those units, you can now become one of those airmen that's in that unit, and you can apply for officer positions that are inside the Guard or the Reserve units themselves, and you can still be commissioned. So just because the colonel is kind of talking to me like, hey, it is competitive, Don't get that twisted. Becoming an officer in the United States Air Force
not
is
easy.
highly, highly competitive. Doesn't matter if it's guard, reserve, active duty, it is extremely competitive. And it is designed to be competitive because just as everyone has sort of foot stomped, it is all about what type of leader that you are. You are leading all of these airmen, right? So it is important that you are the cream of the crop, the best of the best,
yep.
right? And so it is important that we lean into that piece of it. But that does not mean just because one avenue has closed, that doesn't mean that a million other doors aren't there. Just as Sergeant Cerny was saying, hey, you know what? Every time I do this show, I learn that, hey, we've created all these different programs. We've created all these different avenues. And we have created. Sometimes it's overwhelming of how many avenues that we create for folks. But we genuinely put that out there, and that's why this is the back and forth. This is why this is a conversation, so that we can put that information out there to the folks that are on the screen, that are here in the questions, and folks that are here, so these can last right on the LinkedIn and on the UT pages, so that this information can get put out there for everyone, whether you're a junior high school student, a high school student, an ROTC student, you're active duty currently serving, you're looking to serve in other ways, you're looking to commission. We have, you tell us how you want to serve, and we're going to figure it out for you,
and we'll
right?
show you your options.
And we'll show you your options.
Yep.
And that's what recruiters are there for. And as we say it, always go talk to a recruiter. One way or another, go talk to a recruiter, and they're going to be the ones that are going to help you put you in that right direction.
And talk to them early.
Yes.
Because you might learn a ton about the things that you still need to do.
And you have no idea.
Yep.
You have
So
no idea.
Go talk to them early, and they may even
Yep.
you may even find out that you might have yeses before your no's way faster.
Yes.
So before
Going
we get
along
back over to our
with
audience's
pushing that
questions.
ROTC route,
Yep, go ahead.
pushing that ROTC route for those first 2 years, that freshman, sophomore year, non-binding if you're not on scholarship. You're not a
Yes.
not a contracted cadet, so you're able to fill out the program, see if you like, what the Air Force or the future has to offer you. But once you go, to field training, once you get selected to go to field training, and once you graduate field training and come back your junior year, you're contracting as a cadet, and you're also getting put on scholarship. Ma'am, did you want to touch on that CML piece?
Yes, yeah. So, or actually, another layer before we get any further down is that there is a freshman self-elimination. If you are awarded a scholarship and you get to the end of your freshman year, you're like, hey, this is not for me. You can self-eliminate, and potentially barring, like why you're eliminating or why you're being disenrolled, your package will go up for review, and you will not most likely have to pay back your scholarship. That's one of the perks. But again, we look at that whole person concept again. So when we say it's binding, yes, you are signing a contract, but we do understand that, military is not for everybody. We do want to recruit the best and the brightest and the smartest. But sometimes, you get to the end of your freshman year and that's not for me.
And it's the
And
best
that's
and the
okay.
brightest, but more importantly, we want people that want to be here,
Right.
right? Like we want
Absolutely,
it, right?
yeah.
Like, and I would always joke, I'd be like, if you're not bragging and swagging while you're in this uniform, then you probably shouldn't be wearing it, right? You probably shouldn't be wearing it.
100%.
So if you're not excited and you're super proud of of wearing it, then that's cool. That's all right.
Yep. Anything, the training avenues inside the military that are the hardest typically all have the option to push a button or ring a bell or get out, right? Because they need you to want to be there. Some of the hardest programs that we have available, some of those competitive, rewarding things that wearing a uniform can give you, they typically have a button or a bell or like you said, a self-removal process. Yeah. So somebody in as simple as terms, please go ahead.
I beg your pardon. One other piece to talk to the contracting thing that Captain Doring and Lieutenant Brazil talked about. So even all the way up until the day prior to commissioning, you can go through the program the entire time. It is still voluntary. I want people to understand that. Like, you can leave. Like, if you have a change of heart at literally the 11th hour and 59th minute, you can leave. Now, you're vested in a contract at that point, and you probably are going to owe the government some money, or possibly be called to what we call involuntary enlistment for 2 years, because maybe if we've paid for your school for 4 years, we're not going to let you just walk. But service is voluntary. We are an all volunteer force. So you're not locked in with a gun to your head. You are volunteering to serve. And we want people who have that intrinsic desire. It's not just, the captain mentioned it's a good reason to have a scholarship for joining the program, because you get school paid for. It's a fantastic reason. It's what originally got me in to Air Force ROTC was the chance for a scholarship.
Yep.
But very quickly after going to school, in my first year at school, I realized it was where I wanted to be. It was where I felt like I belonged, and I contributed to something that was bigger than myself. And that's when I would teach my cadets. That's when I was at the detachment. I wanted my students, my cadets, to have that same internal motivation that you realize you're working with fantastic Americans from every different background across this great country. You're working with great people who are motivated and want to serve and want to help protect our nation and fight our nation's wars, win our nation's wars. That's ROTC's mission, is to create characters, our leaders of character who will help us fight and win our nation's wars. You want to serve something bigger than you with other great Americans who want to do the same thing. And having that desire, that motivation to serve is unbelievably critical. But at the end of the day, it's not a requirement that once you have signed a contract that now you're just stuck. There could be some consequences to it. Like you could have to repay scholarship money, something along those lines. But if I literally had a senior his last year of school who said, "It's not for me, sir. I'm sorry. I just don't want to do this." And quite frankly, the Air Force was better off to not have somebody be there who didn't wish to be there. He got called to involuntary enlistment for 2 years. So instead of the 4-year commitment he had upon graduation with a lot of responsibility leading people, he took an involuntary enlistment as an airman first class. So not a whole lot of supervisory responsibilities. And he's currently serving as an airman right now. He had to go to basic training. He had to go enlist, and he's serving for 2 years. So he's basically going to get out to his own devices, his own life goals a little bit sooner than he would have. That's probably the best for all parties. We're not trying to force someone to serve. It's not the point of an all-volunteer force. We want you to want to be here. I want you to want to be here.
Sure. All right. So somebody help me understand scholarships and contracts. We've mentioned it a couple times. What is that at like the simplest level? What is the difference between just, I guess, traditional ROTC or a non-contract, non-scholarship ROTC program versus what happens when you're in that, and how do you get there, and what does it mean? And we'll try to keep it just as brief as possible.
Yeah, Lieutenant Colonel Hoffman, if you want to cover that portion, because that's mostly you.
Okay. If you are on scholarship, you are contracted. It's that simple.
Okay.
If I'm giving you money, you're signing a contract to tell me you want to be serving either in the Air Force or the Space Force one day. That makes sense. That simple.
Too easy.
Now, my underclass ranks, so talking my freshmen and sophomores traditionally, but it could be somebody who's a little further along in school, maybe even going for a master's degree. But the first 2 years of the program, you do not have to be on contract. You can be just trying it out, like the LT said. Once you get selected to go into that upper class portion of the program, so a traditional student, it would be their junior and senior years, but we give them number delineations because they may not be traditional students. So you're 300 and 400 years. You will be on contract. It's essentially at that point, the two sides have reached an accord. You have the Air Force who says, we want you. We're offering you this chance to commission. We call it an enrollment allocation, but we're giving you a slot. From that slot, you can go to field training, also known as boot camp for ROTC. And then you can get a scholarship as an upperclassman. And it essentially, we have bought you for commissioning in a fiscal year. So we are intending that you're going to go be a lieutenant, and you are signing a contract saying, yes, this is the degree I'm going to go complete so that I can pursue a certain career field in the Air Force. So the upper class, all of them will be on contract. The underclass, it's only if you're one of our scholarship students, which is a small percentage compared to, again, lots of people who just want to give it a try. I hope that makes sense.
How early can someone interested in being on contract or scholarship, like if they're looking to have as much of it paid for as possible, how early can they get that started?
How early can you apply for HSSP, Captain Doran?
So you can apply as early as your senior year in high school. So you have up until it's 31 December of your freshman year of college to activate your scholarship. And when that really means it'll pay for your first semester and then for the next 4 years, or for how long your scholarship is. So you can have it paid for day one.
Yeah,
amazing.
Going along with
Love
that, the window for the HSOCP scholarship is still open for this year's, both for those high school seniors. When does it close again?
So our last board is going to be convened at the end of February, and we have rolling dates. So you have to create an application on that afrotc.com website by 31 December of this year to be eligible to compete for a scholarship for this upcoming fall if you're planning on starting college August of 25
High school
or
seniors.
24.
High
Skipping
school
years.
seniors, listen to that.
Love it. So,
I feel like
Mike,
that deserves like a big ring bell. Ring, 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 ring,
Yeah,
ring.
right.
Like, hey,
hold
high
on.
school seniors,
We
it's
just-
still open.
Yeah,
I think-
absolutely.
All right, say it again. So it's say the date, say the dates and the website. Say it again.
Yes, afrotc.com, and there's an apply now on the top right. You click that, it's going to scroll over with your high school scholarship program, and it walks you through the minimum criteria that I had mentioned earlier in the podcast to see if you should even create an application. And then once you get into there, it'll say what you need to put in for your app. And you need to have that button clicked and that account created by 31 December of this year, 23.
Kill it.
Perfect. And
Love it.
Let's see. There. I could hit it a bunch more times, but I wasn't sure if it was the right one or not. So yeah, cool. Found the right drop. It's just a color. It's not an actual labeled thing. So question, Mike. I've got a lot. I see a lot of stuff in the
There's
questions
so many
that
questions,
are yes and no's. What do you feel about doing like a rapid fire section where we just hit some of the yes and no questions and see if we can just do like yes or no?
You guys are
and
ready
if
for
they
it?
need context, we just give it really fast. Because this, I'm telling you, the question
There's so many.
pile is going far faster than we're answering them. So we're going to see if we can just like rapid fire through some of them. So let's see if we can, anything that has like, okay, so there's one right there. ASVAB score required. Pop that one up there. Okay, so ASVAB score required, yes or no for ROTC?
No.
No.
Boom, next question.
But there is this. But you do have to take a test though.
The
Right,
Air
you don't
Force
have to
officer
take-
qualification.
There we go. So you do have to take the AFOQT. So that does have
Which
to
is
happen.
similar to the ASVAB.
Yes.
It's just,
And how often can you fail that? How often can you fail the AFOQT?
You get 3 opportunities maximum.
So
Yeah, there
twice
you
is
go.
yes.
That's
you
so
can fail it
another-
twice and
yeah,
that's 3
you fail it
opportunities.
twice. Yeah,
All right,
so 3
hit
opportunities.
the
Correct.
next one. Can I go through AFROTC program to go into a remote pilot? So it's RPAs. Yeah.
RPA.
So
Yes.
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 Boom. Next question.
Next.
Get rid of that one. You keep skipping over the hijab one. Hit it. There you go. If I wear a scarf or a hijab, do I need a waiver? I've actually seen her ask this a couple times in there, so there's one more farther down.
Yes.
It's an accommodation, isn't it? Is that a waiver?
Yes.
Let
It's
them
religious-
answer
it's a
it.
religious
Let them answer
accommodation.
it. Yes. A religious accommodation. So yes, you just need a waiver and
And they're
No
not.
problems.
They're not uncommon.
not uncommon.
Not at all.
No.
All right. So yeah, absolutely, we 100% want you, and that's
Yes.
it. Yeah. Only ages between 18 and 26. Is that correct?
Ooh, what do we got? What do we got?
Negative.
Negative.
No.
I was going to say no, but all right. Clarification. What are our ages?
She's talking about
you must
scholarship.
be at least-
Yes.
Yeah, so you must be at least 17 to contract on scholarship. So that's the minimum age requirement. And then with this age flexing right now, ours is no older than 31 December of your commissioning year, but we're changing that there to align with the new age requirement. So what was the quick math that we did, Lieutenant Colonel Hoffman, that you had to start
38?
by?
You have to be
38.
38
You had to
as a
start.
brand new freshman to graduate by 40.
There we go.
Yes. Yes. But also,
there will
but-
be some there will be some scholarship stipulations that will probably be a little bit different, just again based on
Right.
and then also
where-
the recruiter is going to add into that. Also, too, there's going to be stipulations if you are trying to go for UPTs, right? Which is like if you're trying to be a pilot within ROTC. There's also stipulations because everything's waiverable, but there are certain frames that you can't fly and be a certain age. Same thing with air traffic controllers because air traffic controller is also owned by the FAA. That has nothing to do with the Department of Defense. So there are certain career fields that you do have to reach an age because of it. But for general, right, for general commissioning. That's the age frame that we're sticking with.
Cool. Next question. I think this one's you.
Hi, can I join as a non-citizen? I'm a graduate student and very interested in the work or in working.
All right.
you can
Can
be
I
a
join as a
graduate student and join our program, but as I mentioned, it's unless you have very special program allowances, it's going to be a 3-year program. So OTS might be a better option just based
Yes.
on life timing. There's very few people that have graduate programs that last that long. They're essentially ready to get on with their life. And you do have to be a full-time student in ROTC. That's one of the stipulations. It's not an ROTC requirement. It goes above us to the Air Force level, that you have to be a full-time student except for your last semester before commissioning. So people
Yep.
that finish their degree and they're just completing their ROTC requirements,
Yep.
or
So
maybe
go
they
talk
only
to a
have one
recruiter.
class.
But to become a commissioned officer, you do have to have you still have to be a citizen,
Correct.
because that was the first part of that question.
Do go talk to a recruiter, but have the knowledge of the ROTC program in your back pocket and ask that question.
Yes.
Because a lot of times they may not think that, and you can throw that out there as an option, and they may help you explore that as well. So
And also, don't be afraid to go talk to the Guard and the Reserve as well,
Yeah, of
right?
course.
And see what they have to offer as well.
All right, next one. Can someone change branches and enter into the Air Force ROTC?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Next.
Next. My daughter is attending flight training at ERAU.
Embry-Riddle, Arizona.
Oh,
Embry-Riddle.
There we go. Embry-Riddle
Embry-Riddle, yeah.
Aeronautic
Spell
University.
Arizona.
Yeah, I'm like
Aeronautical
Embry-Riddle. Yeah, Aeronautical University. Does ROTC scholarship pay for flight training at university?
No, it does not. So unless it's a required course, so scholarship monies go towards required courses for your degree. It does not go towards. So say you had a fee to pay to be part of the club for your aviation degree, we do not pay for that. So there's like additional
Gotcha.
fees, that we don't cover.
Yeah, I can
No, go
say
ahead.
there are special programs within the Air Force that pays certain detachments flight training, but you have to talk to the detachment commander to get more insight on those types of programs. But it's not part of the scholarship.
Gotcha. Next question. Curious how you track who wants to receive the JROTC scholarships for college. Wouldn't it be based on who
Absolutely.
asks?
That's done straight through JROTC. So Mr. Esteban Martinez, he actually works upstairs. He is at headquarters JROTC, and they field through all of their commanders, JROTC commanders, who is selected or who is boarded for those JROTC scholarships. So if you have somebody who who's interested in that, absolutely talk to your JROTC commander, and they'll be able to get you that information.
Captain, just as a gee whiz, and I'm sure this is just a guesstimate, like how many scholarships are typically getting out for the high school level? And I know it's a money.
the high
I know
school?
money is. I know that money is equated to it. So but like on a general, are we talking 100 scholarships? Are we talking 100 less than 100?
Yeah, so we're talking about aiming around 1,000, and I say that though with a little bit of bated breath, because again, it's needs of the Air Force. So
Yes, of
Lieutenant
course.
Colonel Hoffman actually drives my expectation in terms of how many scholarships do we need to give out, and when we're looking at that scholarship piece, we do not select it based off of your major. That is not how we select. However, that part does feed into the needs of the Air Force. So we are looking at, again, that whole package of what you will be bringing, because we are recruiting you with our money to fill strategic spots in the Air Force.
Yeah, that's a bigger number than I expected.
Yeah. Next question. Big number, 1,000.
My
She's like,
daughter,
100,
if my
maybe.
daughter is in ROTC, is the scholarship available during a freshman year?
Yes.
So she would be, yes. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, sir. Do you want to go ahead?
No, you were on the scholarships. I'm just saying the yes, no.
Is this still rapid fire? I'm sorry.
This is our rapid fire. Yes,
Oh,
Okay,
shoot.
hold on.
Okay. Yes, they
Mike.
can.
yes.
In college
Go for it.
scholarship. Talk to your detachment commander.
Yeah, we're still in rapid fire, but also feel free to extrapolate on. I have never had more questions
Yeah,
on this show before
Yeah, this is a lot of
than
questions.
this episode.
So we'll keep going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so when you guys are trying to find yes or no, I'm scrolling through which ones
Right.
are yes or no. So
We'll
that's why
make it-
there's the delay.
That's
Okay.
why I tagged in with you first to make sure you were cool
Yeah,
with
I'm
it.
trying to
Perfect.
find yes or no
Perfect.
ones.
But
All right,
also,
so-
we haven't really ever done the yes and no thing before.
Yeah, so it's putting
this
Mike
is
on
all
the spot.
brand
It's
new.
all new for us,
Right.
so yeah.
So, yeah, we're just answering
So
questions.
so the answer is yes, but please hit it a little more of how they can go about it.
Yes, so in college scholarship program, and that goes anywhere from 3-year to 2-year scholarships. So you can compete for those starting your freshman spring semester, and you would be able to activate scholarship monies upon your sophomore year in college. And say you don't get picked up for that sophomore year, if you receive an enrollment allocation, which we've been mentioning field training. So say you are selected to fill a spot for the Air Force, and you go to field training. When you come back, you are eligible for a award, which is $18,000, and it's capped at $18,000, but to go towards your tuition. So every single individual who earns the enrollment allocations and graduates from field training is eligible to receive the award of the $18,000 per year. And that will take you through to graduation.
I think that needs a mic drop.
Yeah, that one needs a mic drop too. Yeah, that is super cool.
$18,000.
18, yeah. That can
Not
go.
chump change.
That can go quite a ways in school.
It's going to pay for most state institutions completely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Tuition and fees.
Yep. All right. Next one. Can we also discuss? I think I might have even jumped in front of you. We can read it together same time. Can we also discuss the process for enlisted personnel? I was joking. To transition into ROTC. I might just have to let you read that one by yourself. Again.
Can we also discuss? Oh no, it already left this year. Can we also discuss the process for enlisted personnel transitioning to ROTC?
Thanks, Eric.
So I think I hit it pretty good earlier, but just to make sure there's no questions. If you are on active duty, you cannot be in ROTC. You have to go. You can apply for one of the special programs, but it will remove you from, what you're doing in your current enlisted career. So there's 2 programs that you can remain on active duty and go be a student, and it's going to go take you a different route. And then there's 3 programs where you separate from active duty and can immediately contract as an ROTC cadet. Some of them give scholarships, some of them do not. And Major Pitts can answer a lot more of that in the in the discussion. Yeah. But if you are somebody who is a reservist or a guardsman, you can be a cadet concurrently. If you are somebody who has served, enlisted, and has gotten out, and you're Mr. or Mrs. Civilian now, you can just go into ROTC, just be a university student, be enrolled. So that's really the key pieces. You can be an airman and go be a cadet. There's just some stipulations. You can't go be an active duty airman going to work at, say, Randolph Air Force Base every day with a job 9 to 5 and then go to UTS and be a cadet. It doesn't work that way. You have to separate from the service because the Air Force doesn't want their active duty airmen essentially being distracted. They need to focus and put the first things first.
A bit of a
on the mission.
On the mission. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so in the great, well-rounded Air Force ROTC.com website, there is a tab for enlisted commissioning programs that goes into the details for all those and contact information on how to exactly apply for those programs.
Awesome. Good plug. Thank you. All right, next one. My son just completed his AFROTC high school scholarship and interview process in time for the first round board decisions. Do you know when he will be notified about said decisions?
Ooh. So those offers actually went out. Yeah, those went out on 1 November. So they should be checking potentially in their spam folder. That happens sometimes for folks to see if they were offered a scholarship or whatever, the final outcome was for that board.
So they've already been released. Tell them to check all the inboxes.
Yeah, and come back to the screen if he got accepted.
Yeah.
If it's in the spam box.
Tell him to go check quick, and then come back. I'll recognize it because it's one of only 3 people that have doctor in their title. So it's a pretty easy one to remember. All right, next one.
Okay, this is for me. Yeah. Are you all considered enlisted, officers from college, or products of Air Force Academy?
No.
ROTC, man.
Yeah. Are you all considered enlisted, officers from college, or products?
We are ROTC graduates.
So they're all of those are different things.
Yeah, the enlisted corps is different from the officer corps, and I'll let the senior be able as a recruiter to explain more of those pieces. But from Academy versus ROTC, so they are different commissioning sources, but when it comes to the Air Force and what you are considered as an officer, there is no difference. Back in the day, we're talking way back in history, it used to be different. Today, there is no difference. Nobody cares. It doesn't matter on any of your records if you graduated from University of Alabama and have a degree like the lieutenant there, or if you graduated from the academy. You're still an officer. You are on equal footing. The General Brown, who just left to go take over as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, but was our chief of staff of the Air Force, was a Texas Tech graduate. And
now he is the highest ranking military member in the Department of Defense.
There you go. You don't have to be an academy graduate. You can be successful.
Go, General Brown. So proud. All right, cool. Next question. Do scholarships limit what you go to school for?
Short answer, no, they don't. If you are selected for a scholarship based off of a general studies degree plan, you are able to, up to a certain year, and Lieutenant Colonel Hoffman can kind of finish this thought for me here with the rules, but you can switch to any degree that you would like. So we have levels of criticality that we assign each major. So if you come in as the undecided, and we decided that, hey, you are such a star performer and you receive a scholarship, we're happy to have you in whatever major, because we need all majors to fill our spots, within the Air Force. We don't just need a whole bunch of engineers. And so, though, to caveat that, however, is that if you are selected for a technical critical, what we would say major, and you're offered that scholarship, you would be locked into that tier level. So on a broad spectrum, we kind of lock you into a criticality tier level, and then you can move within that criticality tier level.
That makes sense.
Cool. This is the next one.
I am deciding to go to the Det 155 for AFROTC to try to become a crow, but I'm going to receive my AS next semester. How is that going to work? Could I still participate?
Before we jump in, tell us what a crow is.
So that is a combat rescue officer.
Cool. A true American hero.
What do they mean by
That is
AS?
Those guys are awesome.
Yeah.
And my
Can you
AS.
throw it back up?
It's right here. My AS.
I'm gonna see my. Yeah, maybe.
I don't
I'm
know.
gonna receive my AS next semester. How is that going to work?
Can you jump back in really, really fast and tell us what AS is? And we're going to start working
I'm
on
decided to go to Zep.
the best part of this answer we
Try to
can.
become a crow, but I'm going to. Yeah.
The short answer for trying to become a crow out of Air Force ROTC is yes, you can apply. It is one of the most difficult programs to get selected for. And then once being selected, to make it through the training program and be finally approved to just start crow training. So the selection rate is very low. The washout rate is very high. But Air Force ROTC, let me pull up my sheet here, has
Don't
a
let it
requirement to
discourage
create. Air Force ROTC has a requirement to create a couple dozen special warfare airmen every year, more or less, a couple dozen. So that includes TAC-P, which is the people who are your joint terminal air controllers, so talking to airplanes, trying to direct where to drop a bomb. Your CRO, so your combat rescue officers, who are going to come in and basically take over an airfield and do similar things to TAC-Ps, and then your STOs, your special tactics officers, and then you have your PJs as well. So your pararescue.
I saw somebody else in the comments that said Associates of Science, so I'll take that back to back as guesses.
maybe,
We're just going to roll with Associates in Science.
Yeah.
So not a bachelor's degree. Yes, if you have to have a bachelor's degree to be an officer. So if you have a degree plan that's going to take you ideally at least 3 years to get through school, because that lets you do all a truncated underclass portion of the program plus the 2 years of the upper class program, and that's the requirement, the 2 years of the upper class. It's traditionally a 4-year program, but again, we can condense it. It's not a faster program. It's an accelerated program, so it takes a little less time. But it's that underclass year that's 1 year is very hard, because remember you're cramming 2 years worth of stuff into one, and you're competing against your peers in that second semester of your what would be a sophomore year, but it'd be your first year in the program. So it's very competitive, and it's a little bit more of a strain on those cadets. Many of them succeed, but it just depends on where you sit on your college journey as you're approaching your bachelor's degree. And then you also have the option, many cadets do this, complete their bachelor's degree. There's somebody who maybe joins as a junior in college. They have 2 years left of school, so that takes them through the underclass portion. Then they complete their master's degree. They go and get their master's while they're in the upper class portion. So their master's complete, just waiting to complete my program requirements and go be an officer. So some people can elect to do that as long as you can give me 3 years in the program.
Yep. Mike, did you see it came back in the normal comments? Up there, right there, Jaja.
Associates in
It's the
Science.
blue one. So yeah, he did. He came back and said it is. He confirmed Associates in Science. Sorry, we got like little side quests in this show where when we can have somebody come back into the comments and it's like a conversation, because there's 2 different pages. And to give you guys context, Mike's on the other side of the screens running everything at the console, right? But when there's comments, he's the one going through them and picking the ones that are questions and putting them into the questions bin. So there's 2 different pages and he has to flip between them. It's like the tabs on your computer when you're in, like, I don't know, on the internet, right? And you've got to go switch from a Google search to like YouTube or whatever. And so he's like flipping back and forth between the 2, and we have to keep an eye on it. So it's like having a conversation with somebody on 2 different windows. So nice job, Mike.
Great job.
He's like, thumbs up.
Fantastic.
Next question.
Does GPA matter to join the ROTC?
2.0,
Yes.
if I remember correctly.
Yes,
Yes.
you must maintain a 2.0 during the entire time. Obviously, we'd hope for higher, but if you're not on scholarship, you must maintain a 2.0, and if you're on scholarship, no lower than a 2.5.
2.5. Correct. Yep. Or else we're
Gotcha.
looking at suspending or potentially terminating your scholarship.
So, yeah, there you go. Next
My high
question.
school freshman that comes in and doesn't have a GPA, obviously we're
Mhm.
going to give you that time to build a GPA. But
Sure.
if you're coming in as a college student or transferring credits in, 2.0.
Sure. Do scholarships and contracts limit what schools you go for, or what do you go to school for?
They can.
No.
Nope.
Oh, yeah, but go ahead.
I mean,
Yes.
like-
Go ahead, sir. For the contracting piece.
It's like arm
For
wrestling.
well, scholarships, like getting a high school scholarship is not going to limit you to any school. It's going.
Right.
It is open to anywhere.
Okay.
Once you are in college and you get college scholarships, there are some of them that are limited. So, for example, you can have a commander scholarship. The commander picks you and says, "You're the person I want. You are high quality," and we have that as an option for them to identify these star performers, and they get that scholarship. It's tied to that detachment. So if you decide you want to go change schools later, you're gonna forfeit that scholarship. There's
Unless
also
you
some that are
back-to-back
tied
Commander Impress.
yeah, well, and it's just a rule where it's tied to the school. There's also some scholarships that are tied to minority serving institutes, so like historically black colleges and universities. There's some scholarships with some money set aside for that, and Hispanic serving institutes, things like that. If you are, for instance, we have a detachment at University of Tuskegee in Alabama, an HBCU. If those students get a scholarship that is tied to that HBCU, and then they want to say transfer to the University of Alabama, which is not an HBCU, that scholarship will be forfeit, if that makes
Gotcha.
sense.
Okay. Cool. Next question.
I'm a first-year college student.
Nope.
No.
Next.
Yeah.
Would it be too late to join
wants
at the beginning of
Come
sophomore year?
join.
Yeah.
We want you.
Go
Yeah.
join.
Would it be too late to join at the beginning of my sophomore
Get after
year?
it. That was the fastest no we've
Get
had
it.
that got to yes.
Yes.
So just go do it. All
Go
right.
do it.
Mike's Mike.
You know what? I have often wondered if our guests can if it's big enough that our guests can read it, and that just confirmed
Yes.
that it is.
Nope.
Because
got through it
Colonel was able
fast.
to before anybody read that.
You got through it fast. All right. So go talk to him. Go find him, talk to him. We'll take you. All right. Next question. Is ROTC only for undergraduate level?
Yes, but
There you go.
There's a real value in that.
Yes, but
it's a program that is designed for students that are pursuing a bachelor's degree. So that
Gotcha.
was the original intent. It is what is still the main intent. It is what, when Captain Doring works scholarships, that money is meant to get somebody an undergraduate degree. You need a bachelor's degree because that's the requirement to commission. So we are trying to get
Gotcha.
people commissioning eligible. That's what we
Gotcha.
need. If you already have a bachelor's degree and you can join my program, like I said, 3 years, give me 3 years, and you're pursuing a master's degree program. So we have students that are doing what's called a 3+2. So like 3 years of undergrad plus 2 years of master's degree, and it's all this one big condensed program that some universities have now. They're going to get a master's degree when they're done, and they're RTC cadets.
Nice.
I right before I left my detachment, the best example, the young man's a senior now in terms of the RTC program. He's an AS400 who will graduate and commission in May of this upcoming year. But he is completing his master's degree. He joined in ROTC as a junior in college and spent 2 years as completing his undergraduate degree, went into the upper class portion of Air Force ROTC and started his master's degree. He will actually complete his master's degree this December. And then he has 1 semester left of ROTC requirements where he doesn't have to be a full-time student. He will just complete his ROTC requirements and go commission in May with a master's degree complete and go through the program and go do great things for the Air Force. Awesome
That's
story.
cool.
That's amazing.
You can do
Yeah.
that.
That's cool.
That's really cool. Man, I almost feel like that guy needs a shout out. All right, let's see. Next question. What officers' positions are in demand right now, and what is not so in demand?
38
All of them.
Fs.
I know.
I'm messing with the captain. I'm messing with the captain.
Yikes. All right, so which ones would you say are more in desire right now? What are we looking for?
That's a very broad
Yes.
question.
It is.
Yeah.
Is we need everything, right? You know,
We
to
do,
fill
yeah.
all career fields. Like I said, we
Mm-hmm.
don't just need engineers. We 38 for support, personnel. We don't necessarily need an engineer to sit in this position. I was I was a public affairs major, and got selected for this career field, and I'm not really doing that here. But I'm using, part of maybe like my degree, I guess, in some aspect, to be a good human, but it does not apply directly to my job.
There you go. Pilots. We need pilots.
Yeah.
The rated positions, which mean flying airplanes, though that's the largest percentage wise of my production requirements per year. I have to create pilots. It's called the Air Force. They fly airplanes. So, I mean, we're just going to produce a lot of them, and officers are the ones who fly those planes. So that's the largest percentage of my production requirement. We have large production requirements for intelligence officers, for cyberspace officers. So thinking people who are going to go do a hacking into all kinds of, stuff that we're not allowed to talk about on unclassified networks. But we also have force support officers, as Captain Doring mentioned. We have a lot of engineers, whether it's civil engineers who can go build a runway on a austere field somewhere, or engineers who are going to be in the acquisitions world, like talking about the Lieutenant Brazil and his folks who are going helping design the weapon systems of the future. And so we have a great need across the spectrum. If you were going to say, like, what is the most in demand from the Air Force, just what they tell me to produce the most of is pilots and other flying officers. And that's just the percentage of what I'm asked to produce. We have to produce everything.
Yep. Valid. All right, next question.
Can you join ROTC or reserve if you are in college abroad?
Not really, no.
No.
So you have to be attending.
You could have.
You have to be attending a university that has an ROTC detachment at they call it a host university, or one of the crosstowns. So that agreement, again, from us, two schools very close in proximity to allow students from one school to go to the host detachment at another university and take that education. We don't have the ability to just do solely virtual ROTC. It doesn't, I mean, does the capacity exist? Yes. But policy-wise, no, because we need you in person to do some assessment and evaluation of you to then ultimately make the determination as a commander that, yes, you, officer candidate, are worthy of going to be an officer and be given the responsibility of leading other men and women into possibly very dangerous situations in combat. So it's a very heavy responsibility.
Okie dokie. I just got the sign again. We are pushing through some of these questions. We got a couple. We got time for at least 3 or 4 more, right? Yeah. All right. I'm going to see if I can get that moved to 5. All right. Let's do another one. Where can my student find a list of universities in Indiana that offer ROTC? In fact, what about every state?
I love that question. Well, there's 145.
Perfect.
We know the number. There's 145. Get them, Lieutenant. Get them.
Jump into it.
All right.
AFROTC.com. It has a detachment locator feature, and it will show you every detachment and every crosstown that's available for ROTC.
Burr, 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 and then just like a mic drop. Perfect. AFROTC.com. Next question.
All right. Is it possible to join the Air Force Reserve and the ROTC at the same time? Can you explain the benefits for being in both? So we're going to add the Air Force Reserve. We're also at Air Reserve components. So we'll hit the Guard and the Reserve for it. So can you? I mean,
Yes.
Lieutenant Colonel's hit it a million times, but yes. But so what's the benefit of it, right? Why would that be beneficial to somebody?
I mean, you can think of all the other VA level benefits they can get. The fact that they're getting a paycheck when they go do their guard time. Now, it can come with some. It can come with some limitations. I've had cadets that were reservist or guardsmen that had to go deploy, and they had to take a break away from ROTC for a year or 6 months, and that kind of threw off their timeline for getting their degree done. So it's really like many things in life, sitting down and making a pros and cons kind of analysis of what works best for you and your goals in life, and how does that align with what the program you're interested in, what they need, and just making those assessments for what's good for you. But I've had a number being at UTSA. I mean, we had Lackland right there, which was the home of basic training. I had a lot of young men and women that were reservist and guardsmen of some flavor that were cadets of mine, and they are now successful officers in the Air Force.
That's cool. All right, next one. Is ROTC a class a semester? Is there other time requirements like PT or 2 weeks a year and every weekend for a month type of thing like the reserves?
Yes.
Yes.
There you
So ROTC goes into, what is it, a lab requirement and one 3-credit class per semester.
Yes.
Probably have to correct me on those specifics, but a class per semester, and you do a PT throughout the week, approximately twice a week, just in the mornings or afternoon, whenever that time is set. But yes, that goes throughout the week every month.
Yes. So class, a leadership laboratory, and PT requirements are what you should expect within your week.
Gotcha.
In the leadership laboratory, just to expand on that a little bit, it's essentially where you go out and do some basic drill. So thinking some of those basic military training skill sets that our airmen get when they go through boot camp, so prepping you to go successfully get through boot camp between your sophomore and junior year when we send ROTC cadets. And then from our upperclassmen, it's leadership laboratory for a reason. They're training their peers. As a officer, I was not doing the day-to-day work of some of that training. That was my chance to give my upper class cadets the chance to practice before they go play in the big game. The other thing that you would have there, depending upon your detachment and some of the other things that you can do, some of the other activities, there could be some weekend requirements, whether it's training requirements or volunteer requirements. So you get a chance to be kind of this whole well-rounded airman concept.
Very cool. Thank you. All right, I just got told that we got one more question, but that means I'm going to do 2 of them. All right. Let's get one more, and you can take this one.
Rebel.
All right. What do you have to do to wait? What? See, this is
That was you could not have planned that any better.
And I am not trying to make fun. This is horrible.
Turns out you can get in.
What do you have to do if you have dyslexia? You're gonna to join active duty Air Force. Oh my God.
Talk to a recruiter.
That was.
Yeah.
If that was not
So
the most
embarrassing.
perfect example of yes,
No.
come talk to a recruiter.
Yes. Oh my
I've never
Lord.
seen one.
It's worth mentioning that
This is how I get fired.
we are not doctors, right? We're not medical professionals. We entrust those decisions to the medical professionals. So if there's some kind of diagnosis that a person has, whether it's ADHD, dyslexia, some form of possibly, I hesitate to call it, but I guess learning disability, you can get the waiver to go through the medical process and program. You'll go through, and all officer sessions, not just Air Force, all components go through what's called DODMER, Department of Defense Medical Evaluation Review Board. They will review a person and then give you either a big green stamp or a big red stamp. And if the red stamp, that means bad. And then each service, so in this case, our Air Force will take their medical doctors, look at anybody with a red stamp and go, well, are we willing based on our service to waive it? And then it'll go through that waiver process. So yes, it could be waived. It depends upon the severity and what the medical professionals would then deem. And that goes for not just learning disabilities. It could go for any number of medical issues. I would never want to speak to anybody and say, yes, you can, or no, you can't, because I'm not qualified to do that. I will defer to my medical experts at all times for those things.
That's where we tell them, go talk to the recruiters, because there's a process in place. And what I'll tell you, our viewer out there who asked the question, I don't remember the name on it. We have an entire episode that was on medical waivers. Go watch that episode, because we hit so many different examples, and there is a ton of resource there as far as little tips and tricks and hints that you can take to the recruiter when you go talk to them that's going to help you out. And it's very circumstantial. It's going to depend on what the medical evaluation board, and we talk to like the guy who's in charge of that during that show. So it's up to that board and how they decide. And it's going to come down to a ton of different things, but you won't know those criteria until you go talk to a recruiter, until you start going and seeking out those questions.
And more
answers.
often, learning disabilities doesn't necessarily affect or reflect something to do with medical waivers. That usually, people usually only have more of a difficulty when they're trying to take the ASVAB. So that sometimes is the only real hurdle that they ever have to get over. So if someone that does have dyslexia, the ASVAB may be a little more challenging to, say general public that doesn't have dyslexia. But hopefully, if you've been diagnosed, you would also know how to properly take tests, and kind of go through those processes. And again, the ASVAB itself, there's no number the way that the AFOQT is assigned, where you can only take it a maximum of 3 times of a lifetime, where the ASVAB you can take as many times. It's just when you fail it, you have to wait a certain amount before you can take it again, and you have to get a certain amount. So there's always ways around it. But yeah, dyslexia that's like, I don't mean to say like that's nothing to us, but that's nothing to us. Like,
go talk to your
recruiter.
recruiter.
Talk to your recruiter.
Go
take
to
the ASVAB. Do your thing. Come on in.
AFROTC.com or airforce.com. And now we're down to our last 2 questions. I'm going to do it. We got 2 more. Is a mom of a son in junior high who wants to go ROTC. Is this recording going to be available later so he can listen? Yes. And we actually hit this early in the show, and I'm glad you asked, because it brings up the opportunity for us to say it one more time. Whatever platform you're watching the show on right now, this whole thing has been and will be saved along with all of the past shows we've done in the past. So go in there, search on Air Force Recruiting, Air Force Recruiting, whatever that label is for the page that you're on, and all of our videos are saved from all of our past shows. This one is also, but the name of this show is ROTC, so just look for it a couple minutes after we kill the show, which should actually be here shortly, since we only have 1 question left.
Before our last question. What do we have? So before the captain's like so nervous. Like, what is she gonna say? Oh my God, what is she gonna say now? All right. Nervous. So I always kind of like to do this. Is like, what do you feel that we haven't hit on the mark? Right. So what are some questions that didn't come through that as subject matter experts that get asked on a regular basis?
I like that.
Right. So when you're sitting at home, or you're sitting at a family dinner, and someone's like, "Hey, well, what do you do?" Like, "Well, I work for the ROTC program for the United States Air Force." And then they're like, "Well, let me ask you this question. What are some of the most common questions that you're getting asked?"
Or did we hit every single one?
Or did we hit
of
the
them?
questions that
Because
you've
it was
already been
perfect.
asked?
Oh, we did a pretty good
I
job.
think we hit them. I think
Honestly,
some of the main questions is,
Yeah.
what is ROTC, how to enroll, and we talked about scholarships, and then everything else from there are specific examples or specific situations that you should go talk to an ROTC detachment or an Air Force recruiting service about.
Yep. And if you're just joining us now, all those questions have been asked in this show. So it's going to pop up here again in a second. Go watch it again. It's absolutely worth it if you're interested in ROTC.
Yeah.
And on that note, last question.
Oh,
I guess the only other thing, let me interject. The only other thing that I've ever gotten asked a question about, it would be basically the after ROTC. And what is after ROTC like? And I'm sure you all have hit this in some of your other podcasts on what does it mean to be serving as an airman, and what does it mean to go be a new lieutenant. And for anybody who goes to that ROTC program, that's part of what our academics are going to be based on. You're going to have the cadre, the officers and enlisted active duty folks who are helping kind of coach you through that. And then we have all sorts of opportunities now, especially with our technology and social media, to have other podcasts within ROTC, to have other subject matter experts from different career fields come and talk to you about here's what to apply for. Here's what going to be a new lieutenant's going to be like at this base. Here's what active duty would be like. And then the other general question of, well, how long do I have to serve? And for most people, there's a minimum of 4 years after you graduate. Some career fields are slightly longer. So if you get one of those flying jobs, you're going to serve longer, because we spend a ton of money to put you through flight training. So we're going to make you serve longer. But there's all kinds of opportunities. Basically, you're signing up for 4 years if you want to go do anything other than fly. And if you want to fly, you're signing up for a little bit longer. And if you are worried about how will I mentally be ready for that next step when I have to go #adulting? That's part of what the cadre's job is to help get you ready and mentally prepared and expose you to other experts to talk about, including, like, we have the lieutenant sitting here, somebody who is close to your age and has very recently experienced what are some of those trepidations. What is that like, making that transition from college student to now I'm in charge of people and now I'm responsible for things, some of which could be very, very critically important and possibly even somewhat dangerous. So that's what the RTC program is helping you build you for.
Love it. All right, let's put the last question back up on here. I think this one's you.
I am finishing up my enlisted contract in the Navy here in May and plan on going to school with my GI Bill in August. How is the process to join AFROTC with my GI Bill?
Just show up. And I also recommend talking to your VA office on base in terms of your entitlements and how that looks for disbursements, for sure. That's very important.
But typically it's just a standard college application process. You handle the money piece with the college or the university.
Perfect. Well, I think that brings us to the end of our show. Thank you to our guests, Lieutenant Colonel Hoffman, Captain Doring, and Lieutenant Brazil. I appreciate all the time. We appreciate all the time that you guys have given us this afternoon and your wealth of knowledge. This show would have been a lot shorter and way more climatic for all of our guests out there if we didn't have you on here, because I didn't know 98% of the things that you guys were telling us.
Yeah, so I've got a long list of notes. Yeah. So thank you for that.
I was answering questions in the last half of the show because of what I had learned from the LT in the first half of the show. So I consider myself smarter for it, and I appreciate everybody out there on the platforms that we're airing on. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah,
you know where to find us. Not 2 weeks, because we're taking a break. We'll be back in a month or maybe next year.
We got to eat Thanksgiving food.
Yeah, we got to eat Thanksgiving food and then have a chance to lose that weight before we put ourselves back on the
before
internet.
we're camera ready, right?
That's right. All right. Thanks again, everybody. Appreciate your time.
Team. Appreciate you guys.
Happy holidays to everybody out there, and we will see y'all next year.
We hope that you enjoyed this episode of The Back and Forth, brought to you by Headquarters Air Force Recruiting Service. It is a privilege for us to bring you all the information and insider insight into the exciting world of the United States Air Force. Remember, this show is all about you. We want to make sure we're providing you information and answers you need to make an informed decision about your future. So make sure to join us every other Tuesday with your questions, your feedback, and any ideas you have for future episodes. We are all ears. Don't forget to subscribe to our social media channels for even more exciting content. And also visit airforce.com for all the latest information on serving as a Total Force Airman. And with that, until next time, aim high.